Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you another installment of Sentai Origins presented by Hirotaku.com. And as always with my Sentai Origins, Raptor is here joining us.
Yeah, good to be here.
And Raptor, since you speak Japanese better than I do, what is the full name of the Sentai series we're reviewing today?
Today we are reviewing太陽戦隊サンバルカン.
Or, for us dumb Americans, Solar Squadron Sun Vulcan.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about Sun Vulcan as far as the origins of the show. First premiered February 7th, 1981. And the series was originally, and actually I think still is a sequel to Denzi Man. The original concept was that they wanted to do a second season of Denzi Man, like they did with Go Ranger, but for some reason that didn't work. Their next plan was to do Denzi Man in new costumes and call it Plasma Man. That didn't work out for some reason. So they decided to just do a whole new team.
However, there was a planned crossover between the Denzi Men and Sun Vulcan, but that didn't work out either.
Yeah, because basically, as I understand it, Denzi Man was wildly popular for its time, and the producers really wanted to, have a sequel to it. Now, Sun Vulcan is considered an official sequel series to Denzi Man, but we've only seen the first episode, so I'm not quite sure how it becomes a sequel series. There is reference on the Ranger Wiki that there's a single episode that features a character, and that there was supposed to be a 5-episode arc in which the Denzi Man appeared, but from the first episode of Denzi Man to the first episode of Sun Vulcan, you don't seem connected whatsoever.
Yeah, the helmets and costumes are a bit similar, and according to Ranger Wiki, the only reference that there is to Denzi Man is an episode in which the Sun Vulcan team defends a woman who was from the Denzi Star.
Yeah, and that's about as far as it gets, but I just wonder, if this was promoted as a sequel series at the time.
I bet it probably was promoted.
Yeah, because, again, from watching the first episode and the first episode of each series, one's a science fiction plot, the other one is kind of back to the basics of spy, espionage, international affairs, even though their villain is a robot, basically.
Yeah, so before we get into the themes, let's go into
the plot.
The plot of the first episode.
So, pretty much there is a machine empire operating out of the North Pole called the Machine Empire, ran by Black Magma.
The Black Magma Machine Empire of the North Pole.
That's what it is. That's a very long title. But basically it opens with they sent a submarine up there, it got destroyed, they sent a plane to investigate, it got destroyed, and so the UN finally got together and said, screw this.
Also remember that the Machine Empire was causing a series of natural disasters around the globe.
And that's why they were investigating in the first place, was all these natural disasters. But eventually they get to the UN, which, by the way, the English-speaking representative basically just says, talking, talking, talking. So, apparently that's how we Americans are at the UN. We're just talking, talking.
I'm sure that the director just gave him that direction because they figured the kids that were watching this show wouldn't know the difference.
Wouldn't speak English, yeah. But it's just a funny little moment in the series. And then the Black Magma basically confronts them via hollow projection, I guess, and declares that resistance is futile.
I really wonder if that's what actually was said or if the subtitlist was having fun.
But in any case, he threatens the UN, and the UN decides to put together... Actually, let me explain this. The UN, for United Nations, a global organization, puts together a squadron to defeat him comprised of only Japanese people.
Yeah, ethnocentrism, yay.
Yeah, although I think it's implied that the Red Ranger used to work in the Air Force because he does have a shirt that says U.S. Air Force.
Yeah, so let's get into our characters. First of all, we have Ryusuke, also known as Vol Eagle, the Red Ranger. He is a top-notch pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Works for the Air Force, and it's not stated if it's a UN Air Force, which there's no such thing.
Yeah, because the UN doesn't have an army.
But
so.
he's not stated to be working for the SDF either.
But again, his shirt says U.S. Air Force. So
okay, yeah. So
I mean, it seems like he's American, but it's not established in this episode. You know, actually none of our characters are really established as far as who they are, with the exception of
Asao. He is the third we're introduced to, who is Vol Panther, the Yellow Ranger.
Who is the one who likes to eat a lot, because in early Sentai, the Yellow Ranger was always the fat one.
Yeah, he eats a lot. He's established as a master climber. That's really all that's said about his qualifications.
Yeah, he was in a ranger group or something like that.
Yeah, so he's probably used for outdoor rescue and whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyways, he's also a bit of an aspiring ladies' man, but again, aspiring.
And we'll get to that, because I find that scene actually quite funny.
Yeah, and then we have Kinya, Vol Shark, the Blue Ranger. He is established to be a master oceanographer who can detect tsunamis before they happen.
Yes, and what I like about this is that this is the first time in which animal motifs are used. And they are using, the shark, the eagle, and the panther, which I swear, by the way, looks like a cheetah in the promos.
It probably is.
Yeah, but in any case, land, air, and sea, Air Force, oceanographer, and an
Climber,
Army Ranger. Yeah. So I like that there is a visual connection there. There is a visual theme, basically.
Exactly.
So that's appreciated. And of course, they are all summoned to basically, was it the Safari Shack is what it's called?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is what is used later in Gokaiger, where they have their little meal in the first episode, I think, or first or second episode. Yeah, that's the same place.
That's a very cool reference.
Yeah, that was intentional, I believe, at the time. And then, of course, they blew it up and then rebuilt it, and you see it in the final episode. Because I think Marvelous's big because that was Marvelous's whole thing, is like, I wanted my curry. And then this episode, they talk about they serve curry.
Yeah, it's the shop specialty.
Exactly. But like the previous, spy Sentais, they go into the back room. They use what I can only describe as a Simon disc to locate where they need to go. I don't know why they need that when it's just like a linear hallway and elevator and whatnot. And they basically get down to the base. Now, before they get there, they introduce the primary female assistant. What is her name? What's her name real quick?
Let me take a look.
Because what's so funny is they get down there, they go to a super secret base, they flash their credentials, and they're like, yes, you can go ahead and go. And what do we get next is a girl in a bikini in a swimming pool.
Misa Arashiyama.
So we see her, and we're first introduced to her wearing her bikini, and then Yellow Ranger becomes a horn dog.
He fawns over her, but she promptly shows that she means business.
Yeah, I don't... Something bothers me and amuses me at the same time that our lead female character is introduced in her bikini in the first scene.
Well, she doesn't even get to be a ranger, so we're already getting down the sexism road.
Yeah, because from watching that, if you did not know that there were only going to be 3 the entire season, you would
assume that she would eventually become one, especially with the habits of modern Sentais of introducing someone who's very obviously going to be a ranger, even if they don't get it immediately.
Yeah, and that's something that, like you said, is modern, so applying to the past Sentai doesn't necessarily work, but, with our perception, it's like, we kind of figured something like that would happen, but no, she doesn't become a ranger throughout the series. I believe she is a mainstay, and she's just basically the assistant.
Yeah, she's a mainstay, but she's not... Yeah. Not a ranger.
And then next we find the commander of the base who runs the shack.
Daizaburo Arashiyama.
Yes. And one more interesting thing while we're here is that there is a talking dog.
Yeah, named Cece. And While the talking dog in Dinzy Man was explained,
because it was like an alien dog.
yes, this dog, Misa just says that the dog's very smart and she trained her to talk, and that's it.
Yeah, that's all we get. And I don't know if that dog's a mainstay or a major plot point, but I'm just like, okay. And what's even more weird is that Volpanther is afraid of dogs.
Which, maybe that's a reference to the panther being a cat.
Yeah, but he's the goofy one. So I think that's really where it comes from, and that's probably why we let it slide.
Exactly. He's the kid appeal character, basically.
Exactly. And I liked him. I really do. Again, the only Ranger key I have is his, and after watching this one episode, I do like him. But again, he's the one that got the most characterization.
Yeah, he's the one that had, because really, you can't really identify anything about about Volshark and Voleagle, and other than that, they're serious and dedicated.
Yes. Let's go ahead and talk about the enemies real quick. I really like Black Magma and his design. I love that helmet design. It is so cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool. Oh, his name is Hell Saturn. That's the Black Magma is the name of the organization.
I thought he was the Black Magma. Okay, Hell Saturn, whatever. I mean, that's still that he's got a cool design, and I like him off the bat because the thing I've noticed about these early villains is that they're not comical in any way. They are serious. That they do seem frightening and a threat.
Yes.
Because, I mean, when you murder people on submarines and create tsunamis, which, by the way, their footage of, like, people running away from the tsunami, I'm sure they borrowed that from some movie of the time that was in public domain or something, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they do a great job of establishing these guys pretty quickly as a dangerous force.
And they do that with a lot of the early Sentais, because everything is usually summed up within the first episode, and they get to the point quick. This is who our villain is.
This is the first one to be established as having a villain with global implications.
Yes, because it's described at the end that he wants to use Japan as his new military base, which I find odd simply because he's established to be at the North Pole.
Yeah, what advantage does taking over Japan provide? I tell you what, holding Japan in risk has really no tactical advantage. It's a pain in the ass to keep.
I guess the idea is it's a good strategic position as far as the world's concerned, and as we know, they have no standing army, so it's not like they really have much of defenses, so Japan would be one of the easier places to conquer, I guess.
I suppose, but I'm sure the producers weren't thinking about tactical advantage. They just wanted the viewers at home to care about the conflict, so they're taking over their country.
But interesting about this villain, it seems like he is a machine. His foot soldiers, they're machines. Mm-hmm. And his monsters, I think he called them bio-machines. But they are completely mechanical, it seems. But he has... so far, the reason why he's my favorite villain in these Sentai Origins is because he has a harem of women.
Yeah, and they're also machines. They're androids.
Oh, they are androids?
Well,
let's skip ahead because at the end it's discovered that there is a villain that's been spying on Sun Vulcan, relaying the information to Hell Saturn. And what was her name?
I'm trying forget.
Something Q.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was revealed that she was an android.
Dark Q.
It was Dark Q. She was an android in disguise, gathering information for him. That didn't indicate that the other women, were androids. But I guess
just made the guess just because of what happened with Dark Q.
Okay, so and I guess that kind of makes sense, or they could be cyborgs. Who knows? But then we get into the battle of it. They discover that the Sun Vulcan's ultimate weapon, which is the Sun Robo, so they do a preemptive strike and attack them. And again, in this, I'm just so surprised how violent the early Sentai is. Because actually, at the beginning of the episode, Volshark cut a guy's hand off, only to reveal it was a mechanical hand.
Yeah, lucky it was a machine.
Yes, he was a machine. I knew that this entire time.
One thing I want to talk about before we completely get away from Dark Q. To my fellow Whovians out there, she totally looked like a Cyberman in a wig. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. But back to the violence. Not only does he cut off his hand, but the villains, when they attack the Sun Vulcans, they are stabbing people. I mean, literally, like, bringing the sword into their chest.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, this stuff was brutal. I mean, I don't know how they ever got away with it. I mean, I see what they do now, and a lot of the violence is a lot more implied than it used to be.
Mhm.
But, geez, man.
Yeah, it's just shooting people with lasers these days.
Yeah, and again, this was still a series where they actually used guns, real guns. And then they get into the battle. I will admit that the battle sequence in this was a lot better than in the past. They stopped with a lot of the editing techniques that they did with repeating shots.
There were some weird edits, but the fight was always moving forward, not repeating things. And one thing that I appreciated compared to the first episode of Densey Man, they weren't calling every attack they launched.
Yes, and I think it has more to do with the fact that these guys are like soldiers, as opposed to Densey Man, who are just like random people that were.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that. And the fight choreography seemed to be nicer.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you can tell with these early Sentai that they are progressing, that they are getting better at what they're doing. And like you said, we don't know at what point they decided to start doing a new series every year, but it seems like, again, that they are getting into a rhythm of what they're doing.
Yeah, because up until O-Ranger, Battle Fever J was considered the first Super Sentai series.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure what I haven't read any statements or decisions about making it a recurring series in the same franchise, but changing the characters, story, and suits.
Yes. I mean, somewhere it happened along the way, and I'm kind of glad that it did, because then we get all this different variety, much like, again, what we have with Sun Vulcan now.
Exactly.
And, of course, it ends as you normally would with the giant robot battle. Again, they have the mechanic, the base, and then they have the Zords or the mecha are based inside of it. They fly out.
Yeah, so this is the first two-piece mecha. While there would eventually be, while we're still pretty far away from each Ranger having their own robot, there are two pieces. There's the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And the jet. Vol Eagle pilots the jet. Meanwhile, Vol Shark and Vol Panther pilot the tank.
Which is kind of weird. I would almost think it'd be like that I think Vol Jaguar is what they call the base, which doesn't even look like a jaguar. It looks like a shark. That would be piloted by Vol Shark. I don't understand why. For a long time in Sentai, they'll have 2 or 3 piece mechas. The Red Ranger would always get his own, but the others would always have to share.
It's what TV Tropes calls the law of chromatic superiority.
I have no idea what that means.
Basically, Red always gets the best stuff.
I get it now. Okay. But in any case, that's pretty much the episode. Then we find out that Dark Q is an android, that she was spying. And what's actually kind of odd is that they destroy her at the end. I almost kind of think that they should have interrogated her for information.
Yeah. I think it was because once, just like Densey Man and Battle Fever J before it, it was a rushed episode.
I was really hoping that would be like something they would do throughout the series, like there's a spy in their organization, they can't quite figure out who it is.
Yeah,
but then it was like, oh, we know who it is.
Seems like a waste of a good plot to do it so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and again, this is only the first episode watching, who knows what they did within the rest of the series, but heck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm going to say I enjoyed Sun Vulcan a lot. I wasn't bored with this episode. I liked the use of miniatures that they had, at least in the beginning. The use of...
Yeah, that was definitely nice.
The plot, Again, I still think that you can probably turn this into a 2-part episode to better establish character, but I'm hoping the characters were probably established later in the series.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got any final thoughts you want to go ahead and share, Raptor?
I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Dinzy Man. So that's something. The characters seem nice. And like I said in our top Ranger suits review, I like the Sun Vulcan suits. They're my favorite of the early Sentais.
Well, they do have a certain appeal, and I kind of like the more that I see them in action, but the helmets still throw me off.
Fair enough.
But that's all we got for today on this Sentai Origins. And Raptor, I believe next on the docket is Goggle 5, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So the next time we come back with Sentai Origins, we will be doing the first episode of Goggle 5.
Yeah. So until then.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. And actually, something else I want to go ahead and point out. Something we're going to try and start doing with the Sentai Origins now is I will post a link to the first episode. So if you haven't had the chance to actually see it, it'll be in the comments, and you can go ahead and watch the episode for yourself. All right? Anyway, thanks guys again, and the tavern is now closed.